Hello everyone, and welcome to this presentation. My name is Kyun N, and in this presentation I will share about my journey into trading and some insights I learned along the way. I've called it A to B via C because it is about a journey and about getting from A to B, but as we know, getting from A to B is never straightforward, hence via C. And if you like, C can stand for Creativity 202, which I will talk about a little bit later. Before I go on, I would like to say thank you to Ken for Creativity 202 and to my Creativity 202 cohort, the Euro session of cohort 1. You have been a tremendous source of inspiration and ideas and support. A little bit about me. I'm a Malaysian Chinese living and working in London, England for 25 years, and I've had a career as a corporate financial accountant. In early 2020, when COVID hit, I took the opportunity to get serious about being professional about my trading and investing. I'm married with a wife and two sons who are coming to their teenage years, a challenging time for them and for us parents. In terms of Briggs Myers personality type, I'm INFJ, the counselor, where I is introversion, so I'm an introvert, and N is intuitive, and intuitives are creative people interested in patterns and explanations. The F stands for feeling, and feelers make decisions with the heart and to fit in with their values and how it affects people. And J is for judges, and judges appreciate structure and order. We like things planned and dislike last minute changes. Here is a table of content for those who prefer structure and like to know the stops along the way. For people who can just go along for the ride and like to be surprised, you can skip forward. So I will start with the introduction, of which we are in the midst of, and then I will touch on SuperTrader Foundation, where I will share quickly about my personal transformation and what I learned there. Then I'll talk about Creativity 202 plus true storytelling. You can take Creativity 202 as a standalone course, as home study, in which you can start anytime, but it is also offered as a combo with the true storytelling component, and that starts at specific times in the year. And I took the combo because that was the one that was first offered. And I will provide a quick summary for both of these modules. And then my journey into sniper trading plus learnings. This is quite a broad section and covers quite a few things. And finally, the last section, final thoughts. I will just wrap up and share some final thoughts. So this is my trading journey timeline. I guess pre-COVID, if you like, I was an amateur investor and trader. I started with value investing, then started learning about Eliot wave theory, and then I went to do some off and on. I did some day trading, and it was really a mishmash of styles, really. And I subscribed to newsletters because I didn't have the means or the process to screen stocks. And in the last probably 5 or 7 years, I've concentrated on the precious metals miners. So then COVID lockdown hit, and I decided I would, take the opportunity to get serious about training to become a professional trader and investor. And around mid 2020, I came across Van Thap's book, or Dr. Van Thap's book, Trade Your Way to Financial Freedom. And at the same time, I also discovered someone I will call JKD, who is uh, long time, multi-decade Wall Street veteran who was using a covered calls options strategy. And in early 2021, I took a Peak Performance 101 workshop, which is a Wenthrop Institute workshop. And from that, I enrolled in the Super Trader Foundations course, which was a 1 year course for the Super Trader program, Foundations being the first module. And I also started trading the covered calls option strategy that I had been learning from JKD, and it just took me about a year before I even started because it took me all that time to convince myself of the risk and that it was properly managed. So because I was dealing with options, I also came across Chuck Whitman's options workshops advertised through the VTI. So I thought it would help me to learn more about options. So I took the 101 and then moved on to the 201 and proceeded to the Masterclass 201 plus 301 as the class is called. And that kind of took about 12 months. And in the meantime, I finished Super Trader Foundation in the 12 months. And coming to June 2022, I took Creativity 202 plus the True Storytelling. And a few months after that, I started paper trading, the sniper trading strategy, which brings us up to the present. Let me start with the Super Trader Foundation because I got a lot out of doing Super Trader Foundation, a significant amount of personal transformation, and it really lays the groundwork, if you like, for to prepare me for my journey into trading. So I will in the interest of time, I will just quickly, I've categorized them into a few broad categories. So in terms of mental health, mental resilience, improved self-esteem, in that category, I definitely got a lot of impact out of Super Trader Foundation. These will be things like psychological and mental resilience, stress management, um, improved self-esteem, changing my mental paradigms and how to motivate myself. Then there is the spiritual development aspect. I'm a Christian, but what I learned from Super Trader Foundation really helped to strengthen my faith and helped me on my spiritual journey. Then I got clarity and focus. Less is more for where I am at the moment, and it's important to be focused. So things like my goals, my values, my purpose, and questions like who am I, what is the purpose in life, how do I be me. Next category is be happy for no reason. I think that's one of Van's one principle or phrases, if you like. And so I'm really better now in being happy for no reason. Not all the time, but still work to be done, but definitely improved. And lastly, the position sizing strategy game, which was one of the lessons in the Super Trader Foundation. And what I learned there was experiencing the real tedium of grinding out long runs of small losses. And even my coach was saying that to me that this game can be quite tedious. But ultimately, by going through that, I got to my objective. So now that I'm actually trading, I do get I have a reference point or reference experience when I'm going through those long grinding runs of small losses. And in that game, I also learned about monitoring my thoughts and feelings as I trade, which was really painful to do to record at the time, but it really has helped me develop the self-awareness now when I'm actually trading. So now we get to creativity 202 plus the true storytelling module. So this is the simple summary from Creativity 202. It's a very good summary, and it's in the course itself. And of course, I didn't read it at the time because I like to dive straight into the lessons and find out as I go along. But now that I'm nearing the end of the course and looking at it again, I can see how, elegantly concise and well summarized it is. Um, I will not talk through every single point here. This is really just for reference, but I will touch on a few that has really impacted me. Number 5, to seek what can work, you must dismiss your hopes and fears. That had a big impact on me. Number 6, you must embrace the strange, the unexpected, the exceptional, which sounded scary at the time, but they gave us tools and techniques to teach us how to deal with them. You must get into the habit of planning fast and replanning faster, or as I'd like to think of it, how to fail fast so that you can succeed fast. Number 9, you must have many minds inside, including your enemy's mind. And this was also a very challenging lesson for me because I'm a highly sensitive personality type, and I needed to put filters up so that sometimes I needed to get away from feeling the feelings of others. But again, this was quite an important lesson for me. Then number 11, above all, you must have courage. And really, from points 11 to 16, that 6 of the 16 points is talking about courage. So that's really a key component that we get from the course. So now we get to the true storytelling part of it. The simple summary, but this is not in the course. Maybe I should back up a little just to talk about why there are two components to Creativity 202 and true storytelling. Creativity 202 is a standalone course. You can take it in a home study. But what this first cohort did or what Ken did with the first cohort was to tie Creativity 202 with a storytelling circle component where we meet regularly on every once a week, and where we use the lesson for the week as a frame or as a basis to do our storytelling. And this is my summary of what I think true storytelling is. I will start with the first point, which I didn't come up with that. Actually, it's Ken's own words in one of his videos about true storytelling. So we're talking about safety, trust, truth, and opportunity. And how I think of that is safe space engenders trust, letting truth emerge from which countless opportunities are birthed and are set free. And if we take each of those elements in turns, if we go to safety, it's about creating a safe space where we can learn to trust each other more fully. In the West, when an idea is thrown out there, everybody in the meeting, jumps at it, analyzes it, and really takes it apart until it really is dead on arrival, and there's no chance for it to live. So the idea is to let the story live, and how we do that is to have rules. Firstly, when someone is speaking, we practice deep listening, and we don't make any comments. And secondly, we don't comment on it in the sense of analyzing, offering solutions, or rejecting it afterwards when it's our turn to speak. We can use that the story that was said or given as a trigger point for our own story. And in that way, the story, we let the story live and it builds up. So from that place of safety, we generate trust. And once we have trust, the safe space then attracts the people who want to come there. And from a place of safety and trust, we then have an opportunity really to speak the truth. And we can here talk about the thick face and the black heart theory. All that means is that, there are parts that we don't want to reveal about ourselves, and so we hide, but in the sense that then we hide even the things that we could reveal or would be willing to reveal. And true storytelling really is a way to reverse the learned behavior of hiding the truth. And out of this, once we've told our story, we get to opportunities. We create opportunities. For me, really, the opportunity is the opportunity to empty my bowl, which has been filled during the week, and then release it to the universe to deal with. And many times I've got answers, the following week, or sometimes during the true storytelling itself, and sometimes even when I was preparing the lesson for the true storytelling. And I believe that the sniper trading strategy came out of Ken's involvement with other true storytelling and creativity 202. And in this cohort, we came up with, or the one-word summary was introduced by Ken, and that one-word summary has now been introduced into David Boji's storytelling science theory. So you can see that these are the opportunities that can arise from true storytelling. And I think it's the combination of creativity 202 plus true storytelling is really a very, very powerful combination. So I like to think of my journey into sniper trading as growing organically out of creativity 202. I had planned to take foundations in 3Q 2022, but creativity 202 launched first in June 2022, and I decided to take that first. By that time, I had taken a few workshops and courses, and I learned that they were intensive and they were often time consuming, and to understand and internalize the concepts, there was a lot of work I had to do during the workshop and also outside of the workshop and also after the workshop. So from these experiences, I kind of had this belief that I should only take one workshop at a time. So I chose Creativity 202, and I went along with that and put kind of foundations aside. But after about 2 months of Creativity 202, I started watching the Nightly Strategy podcast. And then I started learning the terms to understand what Ken and the others were talking about. And there are some very useful resources that I used, like the glossary and Patreon resources, which is really tremendous. I then got access to foundations as well, and of course that also including the Nightly Strategy podcasts. And one of the other members in the cohort was also had also started to learn Ken systems almost right from the get-go of Creativity 202. And every week he would share what he had learned, and he was progressing by leaps and bounds. So I thought maybe it was possible for me also to start learning some of Ken's systems while doing Creativity 202. So that's how I got started into sniper training. So if anyone wants a formal way to go about uh, getting to trading excellence, This is it. This is Dr. Van Tharp's 11-step plan to trading excellence, or what I like to call the Google Maps guide to trading excellence. Because to get from A to B, you need to know where you are going, know where you are, and plan your route and begin. In the interest of time, I will not be covering all 11 steps. There are definitely some steps that I have used and that I will point out in this presentation. Here is a quick run through of how I planned and prep for sniper trading or getting into sniper trading. So firstly, I kind of assessed whether it was for me, and it did tick the boxes of how I like to learn and how I want to learn. Um, Sniper trading is really visual box trading, even as it's called, and I'm predominantly a visual person. I'm also a little bit kinesthetic, but I am definitely not auditory. So, the form of training itself works for me, and I also like instructor-led training, which I actually discovered in the last 2 years, especially with the JKD trading group. I actually didn't know this beforehand. I used to study from books, but I now find that really dry, and instructor-led training really works for me. Yeah, because a lot of the training in Ken's systems, if you like, uh, uh, although not live, but they're recorded on videos, and he is normally the instructor there, so that works for me. Online video, let's say here, no travel, thanks. I mean, since COVID, um, this has really come to the fore. And I actually don't like group work with other course members, and I prefer to choose my support circle. And that has its pros and cons. And then it's about exploring. So how do I explore whether it's something that's for me or not, or know a little bit more at least, because you don't really know until you try it. So I reached out to people who are further along on the trading journey, and here the creativity 202 cohorts was really useful for me, because they are very experienced traders there, as well as and I think most of them are already trading Ken system. And then thirdly, it's about take stock of the resources, and this is one of Van's steps. Um, I've broken it down to time, will, pattern, money, because that is the standard process or standard work that Ken has. And then I've added another category called other. So in terms of time, do I have the time to trade the way I want to trade? And am I motivated? Am I committed? One of the things in Van steps is that you have to identify your goal, and you have to make sure that you're committed to the goal. Um, Pattern, I think of this as, what trading systems, what trading strategies, what fits me, what can I actually practically trade. Money, we need to assess the financial situation, how much capital can I allocate to trading. And then in this other category, in the other resources, like, do I have the fit for purpose trading tools? Like, do I have the right broker platform who will support the symbols I want to trade? For example, I trade the US, or, Ken Systems is or the daily report talks about US stocks and ETFs, so I tend to do that. Do you have the right charting software? Do you have the ROCC indicator package to help you, or can you create your own or write your own? So these are the kind of steps of planning and prepping I did for sniper trading. Between the idea and the reality falls the shadow. So writes T.S. Eliot in The Hollow Men. So we have done our planning and preparation. We have taken stock of resources, gotten those resources. How do we get from here to there? And here is where the next step is crucial. Do it now, or as Nike puts it, just do it. And Van believes so too, because this is his step 9 in his trading plan. And at this stage, for me, I had spoken to various people. I've heard their advice. I've taken stock of my resources, got it all set up, got the trading platform, got the IRCC indicators, so it was all good to go. It was almost showtime, but I was getting stage fright, or I just sat on all these things for a while and thinking about starting to trade. And I think after a while, after one day, it all just came to a boil, and I just entered a small trade based on the WMB3 setup. And I think that was crucial for me. I wasn't all prepared. I haven't, gone through foundations comprehensively and understood everything. And I think I'm not the kind of person to do that anyway. I'm more a do, learn, and do kind of person. And so by entering this small trade, all risk managed, very, very small, it was like a warm up for me. It was something to grease the wheel and to get me going and to build momentum and to overcome the fear that, hey, trading is okay. You're not going to break an account if you're risking $1 a share, for example, or risking $1 absolute. So do it now, very important step. And I would say that you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. Showtime. We've made it. We are in the arena, we're in the battlefield, and we've started trading. And as Mike Tyson knows, things look very different when the punches start flying. And so we need something to prepare us for what to do when we are in the arena. How to deal with unknowns and lessons from Creativity 202. When you're stepping into new territory, you will encounter unknowns and new things. There are known unknowns, which you could have identified beforehand. Then there will also be unknown unknowns, which you have no way of knowing. So having a way to deal with them is very useful. In lesson 2 of Creativity 202, very early on in the lesson, it already talks about war's great unknown. And my paraphrase for that is no plan survives contact with the enemy. Plans are useless, but planning is indispensable, according to Dwight Eisenhower. Lesson 11, plunge into the unknown. Or how I like to think of it is Sun Tzu and the art of plunging into the unknown. This references, of course, the art of war, but also because Sun Tzu features in this story or this lesson. Lesson 15, neutralize your hopes and fears, a very important lesson for me, and which I have a memory phrase, you dogs, do you really want to live forever, which is in the lesson uttered by Frederick the Great during battle when his troops were in disarray and were in a panic. And why this was effective was because it cut through their mental paradigms, and they had a mental paradigms then that if you die in battle or you fought bravely, you would live forever. But with this phrase, Frederick just cut through that mental paradigm and they managed to regain composure. Lesson 17, invent backward, then forwards, or how I like to think of it is don't reinvent the wheel, but adapt it for current purposes. Lesson 19, Twister, talking about what are the rules of the game and can you make up your own rules, and also the single most important moment in every trade video that Ken posted, and that for me is a very important video. Lesson 22, Impersonator, and Lesson 23, Blender. It's about the power of teams, We talk about the inner characters and mixing it up to build your creative muscles. Lesson 26, 27, honing creativity into innovation. I like to think of that as fast testing multiples, fail fast to succeed fast. And lesson 29, breaking inertia, where we learned about you can't solve your own problems and we need to seek outside help. Hopes and fears. Here are a couple of examples from my own experience. And I will start with fear because there tends to be more fears than hope, at least in my case. Fear of losing money and then fear of losing more money once you have made a loss. So for example, I see my equity level dropping, or I'm starting the trading day with a few losing trades. And strangely, this applies even when I'm paper trading. Even though I know that real money is not involved, I feel that I have skin in the game. And the bit in the bracket, treasurer and scorekeeper, are my parts that come into play, and which I will touch on later in another slide. And fear of losing money tends to lead to revenge trading on the symbol where I made some of my early losses, and there's this desire to regain them. It leads to things like FOMO, forcing trades, and the part that comes into play is the go-getter. And it produces stress and anxiety. And stress and anxiety really affects our ability to entertain a wider number of alternatives, which is actually essential and optimum. But what stress and anxiety does is instead to narrow down the focus into one or two alternatives. I mean, in extreme cases, it gives fight or flight syndrome. So in trading, we narrow our focus, which is not optimum at the time. Then we come to hope. Hope to be a profitable trader, for example. But when I'm not seeing the results and my paper trading equity is going down, I develop a kind of cognitive dissonance. This does not compute. This is not how it's supposed to be. You know, Ken's trading systems work. He's proved it. So what is going on? And this again can lead to stress and anxiety, and to me doubting myself. So these are some of the hopes and fears that I've experienced. So here are some ways to neutralize your hopes and fears. And I will just focus on the headings in the interest of time. And the first two really are from Ken's notes in the lesson. The first one is feel the -1 hour loss and eliminate the anxiety. So one of the ways that you neutralize your hopes and fears is really to eliminate one of them, and Ken gives some advice on this. And secondly, it's achieve the zero state. And he has done many videos to talk about this, and so I will not go through the kind of smaller points in there. Point three, the best things in life are usually unexpected, which is kind of counterintuitive, especially when we emphasize planning and preparation. But I think if we embrace this, and I have embraced this, it leads to a much stronger mindset, or to be more creative and innovative. And then we have trade the patterns and not the score. This is my own way of dealing with it, because I try to focus on the patterns and completely drive any thoughts of the score out of my mind. So I eliminate them and the anxiety they bring. And then lastly, it's about trusting my team, which I will talk about in the next slide. Here I share my experience of conflict in my parts and how I went about resolving it. Think of parts as inner characters. When your parts are in conflict, you will not be in the zero state. Conflict pulls you away from the zero state. And being in the zero state is very important in trading. So the overriding principle is that parts must be in harmony to trade well. So in this example, what was the conflict? I discovered an unknown part when I was started trading. The scorekeeper. The scorekeeper is focused on the intraday score, and especially if I have losses. Then what happens is the go-getter, he wants to regain losses ASAP. And you know this part. He's the action man. Shoot first, shoot later, shoot some more, and when everyone's dead, analyze the situation. And then I have the treasurer, and she wants to preserve capital. When she sees the equity balance going down, she doesn't authorize the same spend or position size, as it were. And I find myself, I will reduce the position size to minimize further losses. But in a way, this is a self-fulfilling prophecy most times, because reducing position size is telling my mind that I'm looking for the loss in a way. So how do I eliminate this fear? My part's the resolution. So it's important to have a parts negotiation. So to get the parts together so that we can resolve the conflict between the parts. And this is a teaching from Super Trader Foundation, and some of you might be familiar with it. So I reminded the parts about the objective. I'm trying to learn to trade the patterns. So how can we please, in a way, everyone, or come to an outcome that everyone is happy with? So reminding everyone of the objective is important, because I'm not at the moment about increasing my equity. That is an outcome. But if I focus on the process, which is learning to trade the patterns and trading them well, the outcome will follow. So I needed to be free to be able to do this, or my parts needed to be. So the solution we came up with was that the treasurer understood what the mission was, and she then authorized what is called, R&D spend, research and development. So this is testing. So when I got to that idea, then that really freed me to focus on the trading the patterns, and that's one way I went about it. It's not all gone, by the way. The scorekeeper, depending on the day, still pops up now and again, and I just have to go through this thinking about R&D spend and the treasurer authorizing it. The other thing that I discovered along the way is the Ken's trading team. And this was after I shared my story about the previous conflict in one of the true storytelling sessions. And it's an example of how, the universe sometimes provide the answer after true storytelling. And this is in Foundation's psychological state management in the usual phases of a trade. It's one of Ken's video. And there he talks about the scout kind of surveys the landscape, as it were. It's searching for symbols to trade and seeing how they are performing and behaving on the day. Then we have the worker or carpenter. They frame up the trade once we've spotted a potential trading opportunity. And then once they've done that, they pass it on to the entry guy. And it's surprising to me because the entry guy only has one job, and that is to make the entry. And one he's done the entry based on information from the carpenter and worker, then his job is done. And I can say, well done. After the entry comes the fireman. He's the one who sets the initial stop loss and moves the trade to no lose plus dinner for two. And once we get to that point, it's over to the manager to manage the trade. It's a science project, as Ken says. And at the appropriate time, the sniper comes in, pulls the trigger, and we exit the trade. So it was really helpful for me to visualize this team because it just gives you a buzz to have a team. Um, and then on top of that, I get the chance to be grateful to the team. Even if I have a loss, I'm grateful to them. I say, great job. And that helped me to reset faster and be ready for the next trade. Whatever your trading team did in the heat of battle, they are right. Don't question them at that time. Of course, I need to put a caveat if you are experiencing very large losses. Um, Kind of say well done to them at that time for getting you out of the loss, but definitely evaluate and assess so that you can eliminate large losses greater than -1 R. Losing money that you do not need to lose by going through the school of hard knocks is not very intelligent. Van said that it's in his 11 step plan, and Van knew what he was talking about, and I wholeheartedly agree with him. So, what can we do to prevent this? Be smart, fail fast, dojo training. So, paper trade first before using real money. My previous experience with paper trading was on a swing time frame, and my experience was that I would lose interest. I put in a trade and actually forget about it, but that may have something to do with the time frame. But with the sniper trading and intraday trading, I actually found that I am totally into it. I mean, I feel that I have skin in the game, and it feels really real to me. So I think that that has really um, helped me because there's no real money at stake, and if I'm down, then I'm saving that amount in real money. So I think that was a good move on my part. Then testing and learning to fail, or really testing and failing. Failing is a novel idea to me, and this was a very important lesson because I came from a failure is not an option culture, especially in education, and this lesson just helped me embrace failure as an ally and not as an enemy. And that's okay to fail. In fact, you should fail because you want to uh, test something out. And when you fail, you succeed. So that's a huge mental shift. And in the lessons, it says there's no way of knowing in advance whether something new will work. So the secret is to aggressively seek the failure. And it tells us to fast test multiple ideas at once. That is not to test one idea at a time, but test several at a time to see which one fails and which one is viable. And the way I think about it is to how do I find my minimum viable product? And in this case, what will get me trading and learning fastest. And on the right-hand side of the slide are examples of things that I've tested or am testing. And I will not go through every single one of them, but this is just to give you an idea of some of the things that you could test. And this list doesn't even scratch the surface, really. And you need to come up with your own. Fail fast, fail now, fail forward, fail by design, fail under controlled conditions, gain balance, learn to walk. This is an excuse to share this quote by Ken. In fact, it's an aphorism, not just a quote. I think it's great and I love it. It's elegantly simple, but packs so much wisdom and lessons into one short sentence, and it captures concisely the initial phases of learning something. And to me, it also captures the lessons 26, 27 in Creativity 202. Kaizen, or continuous improvement. This is a Japanese business philosophy, and it's also the final step in Dr. Van Tharp's 11-step plan, which is called continually monitor yourself. The idea is that once we have learned to walk, once we are trading and performing the things that we're supposed to be doing, continuous improvement is important to make progress towards our goal. Think of continuous improvement as a loop of do, learn, feeding it back to the cycle, and then doing again. And here are some of the things that I have done for myself. Regularly review and assess myself, systems, and market. And this is on a longer time scale, weekly, monthly, or quarterly. Then when I started Ken's sniper trading system, I started marking up the charts in the standard way so that I could study and review how I did and to make improvements. And it helps me to keep the discipline of constantly reviewing and studying. Then after that, I posted my charts for Ken's feedback in Campfire, and I actually started this quite early in the process, and it's a huge step. It's very nerve-wracking, um, and I did it not because I was super bold, but I was getting frustrated because I couldn't evaluate the quality of my entries and exits, and I knew I needed coaching or feedback from a third party. And actually, it's one of the lessons from Creativity 202. It tells us to get third party because they can see the issues and provide the solutions. So that's posting trade charts. And then it's find and have accountability partners, mentors, coaches, support network. Again, this goes back to having third-party people to provide help, and also some people further along the line can share in the experiences that you are experiencing, and they can help you that way. Helps to know that you are not alone. Then put confidence in the creative process, not the product. I think it's important just to keep working on the process, to be focused on the process so that you keep improving and not to focus on the outcome, which sometimes can lead you astray. And then empty my bowl to the Creativity 202 cohort. And sometimes you just need to unburden yourself. I tell my story, release it to the universe, and wait for the universe to respond. And finally, keep working on personal transformation. It's a never-ending journey, really. So I just keep working and use it as part of my continuous improvement. Trading isn't everything, and I mean that in a couple of ways. Firstly, it's a convenient way to segue into some of the non-trading topics in Creativity 202. For example, we looked at a poem by Edna St. Vincent Millay. It's a long poem, but almost everyone took time to go over it. And one person had even studied it in school or university. And it was a rich discussion and it had deep impact for some. Then we had stories about blending in music, and I discovered canon rock, which is a rock interpretation of Pachelbel's canon. a classical piece. And I learned about the Tower of Power, the most important band in the world, according to Ken. Don't change horses in the middle of a stream could equally apply to trade management. And secondly, trading is a part of my life and not my whole life. And it's a reminder to remember and nurture important relationships with family, friends, and community. To take time for sports, hobbies, interests, and other passions, and to focus on spirituality and any other things that mean something to you. So thank you for listening and for your time. And again, huge thanks to my Creativity 202 cohorts. You've been an inspiration and great travel companions. Thank you.